says Sarah is the daughter-in-law of Terah. So if the Bible says that's a daughter-in-law, that means it's not his daughter. So we can easily just look at Abraham not wanting to be unalived. Genesis, the 12th chapter, he already admitted that Abraham said it multiple times to say, you my sister. So he already admitted that. And so that's what he said everywhere. And he just didn't want to be unalived. It's just that simple. If
all right, moving right along, man.
You wouldn't have a problem with it.
All right, moving right along. Let me see who we got here. All right, we got God Energy. Ain't speak yet. God Energy, what up? Hey, yo, one more thing before I go.
Hey, Sa, before you do that, right? In Genesis 26, because he said he never read where Isaac said it.
Come on, Sa, that's crazy.
In Genesis 26:7, Isaac says, and the men of the place asked him of his wife, and he says, she is my sister. But he feared to say, she is my wife, lest the men of the place should unalive him for Rebekah. So like I said, Abraham and Isaac would say that this is my sister so that they would not get unalived. That's a precept. You got it, Si.
All right, let's move right along. Hey, I want y'all to remember his topic, his presentation was dealing with Islam. So y'all can come on back and ask him some questions if y'all have some on Islam.
Peace, y'all. Peace to the panel. Yeah, I just got two questions for Tazariak about his opinion on something, and then I'm gonna make a statement. Tazariak, how do you feel about, I'm going by the logic that Abraham is the first Hebrew. We're gonna go by that logic. Then we also gonna go by the logic of okay. So then you could add nuances to this question. It still stands. Given that some people run with the logic that Abraham is the first Hebrew, then going with the logic that you are what your father is. How do you feel about the statement that the Muslims and the Ishmaelites are not Israelites, but they have connection to the Hebrew lineage, meaning that the sons of Jacob, the sons of Israel, those are Hebrew Israelites, but through Abraham, the others are Hebrew Ishmaelites. Yes, they missed out on the covenant. Yes, they missed out on the blessing. Yes, they're practicing things off. That's why they don't have the blessing. That's why they're not Israel. But through their father being Abraham and that you are what your father is, how do you feel about the logic that they can claim Hebrew Ishmaelite in some sort of way? How do you feel about that?
You actually, so what I want to say first, when you read Genesis 11 and 14, that's the first mention of a Hebrew. It says, and Sarah lived 30 years and begat Eber. Eber is where Hebrew comes from, is Ibar. So that would be the first Hebrew. That's who Abraham descends from. But on the subject, you notice that the Ishmaelites and the Israelites speak a similar dialect. So you'll see they might say salam, we would say shalom. We would say Allahayim, or some might say Elohim, they may say Allah, because we share a similar language, because Abraham is the physical father of Ishmael. So the term Hebrew Israelite, you won't see that connected in the Bible. You'll either, where they might call them Hebrews or they might call them Israelites, because Hebrew is the language that we chose to speak. The Ishmaelites call it a different language altogether. They call it Arabic. So they didn't keep the language of the of Abraham by calling it Hebrew. Let's say if the Ishmaelite, because that's really all that they're talking about. Like you ever see like a Puerto Rican and a Dominican, you might look at them both and say they Spanish. You're saying they Spanish because they speak the same dialect, but they'll tell you, no, I'm Puerto Rican, or they'll say I'm Dominican. So Hebrew, when we call them a Hebrew, it's the same connotation. When they say Hebrew of Hebrews, because I'm a Hebrew. So you don't see the Ishmaelites carrying that lingo with them. So I won't say that they couldn't say that they're physically connected to Abraham, but according to the covenant, the only thing that separates Ishmael and his other sons, because he had other sons, he had 6 other sons besides Ishmael.